INFJs are often described as insightful, compassionate, and quietly intense. If most of the qualities or traits we're going to go over in this video describe you, then you're most likely an INFJ. First, you probably have a strong inner world, one rich with ideas, values, and reflections. INFJs tend to spend a lot of time in their heads, analyzing people and situations beneath the surface. This mental activity isn't just idle daydreaming. It's a focused, often intense attempt to understand the deeper meanings of life and the motivations behind people's actions. If you find yourself constantly pondering abstract concepts or envisioning future possibilities that have a meaningful purpose, this points toward the dominant introverted intuition, which INFJs have. Another major sign is an acute sensitivity to others' emotions, often accompanied by a deep desire to help and support. INFJs are famously empathetic, able to pick up on subtle emotional cues that others might miss. This emotional radar means you might often feel overwhelmed in large social settings or around people who are emotionally turbulent, yet you still feel compelled to nurture and protect those around you. You may experience this as an intuitive understanding of someone's pain or joy without them explicitly stating it. When people confide in you, it feels natural to offer advice that goes beyond surface-level fixes, aiming instead to foster growth and healing. You likely value authenticity and meaningful connections over superficial interactions. Small talk can feel draining or pointless because you crave conversations with depth and sincerity. If you find yourself steering conversations toward personal beliefs, values, or life philosophies, rather than casual chit-chat, that is a classic INFJ trait. You want to understand others on a fundamental level and be understood yourself in return. From time to time, INFJs experience a certain internal conflict between their strong idealism and the reality they face. You may have high standards for yourself and others, and when the world falls short of your ideals, it can cause frustration or disappointment. Despite this, you tend to remain quietly hopeful, believing in the potential for positive change, even if progress is slow. This mix of pragmatism and idealism creates a powerful motivation to make a difference, whether through art, counseling, activism, or other helping professions. Being an INFJ can be tough sometimes. That's why we have put together resources that will help you navigate your relationships, career, and the INFJ life in general with clarity. Check out our INFJ Mastery course and INFJ ebook. You can get them using the links in the description of this video. Another hallmark of INFJs is their preference for planning and structure, though it's an internally motivated system rather than one imposed by external demands. You may enjoy organizing your thoughts and your day-to-day life in a way that aligns with your values and goals, but you likely resist being boxed into rigid routines that don't feel meaningful. Spontaneity is appreciated only when it serves a deeper purpose, not simply for its own sake. In relationships, INFJs often take time to open up, but form bonds that are deeply loyal and long-lasting. You might find yourself selective about who you trust and share your true self with because you want to avoid vulnerability being wasted or misunderstood. When you do commit emotionally, it's with intensity and a willingness to support your loved ones through thick and thin. You may also notice a quiet intensity about you that others sometimes misinterpret. You don't always wear your heart on your sleeve, but your emotions run deep, and you express them through meaningful gestures, thoughtful conversations, or creative outlets. Whether through writing, music, or other art forms, you channel your inner complexity into something tangible. A subtle but powerful sign of being an INFJ is your ability to see multiple perspectives at once, which comes from your auxiliary extroverted feeling. This helps you navigate social situations with grace, often mediating conflicts or smoothing tensions because you genuinely want harmony and understanding. Yet, you do so without losing your sense of self because your inner intuition guides your values. One key aspect of the INFJ personality is the way you handle conflict and difficult emotions. Rather than confronting issues head-on with outward aggression or bluntness, you often prefer to process everything internally. You might take time alone to reflect and analyze before responding, carefully considering how your words will affect others. This internal deliberation reflects your introverted intuition paired with extroverted feeling, which makes you highly aware of the emotional environment and sensitive to the potential impact of your actions. When you do speak up, your words are usually measured, thoughtful, and designed to foster understanding, not division. You might also notice that you have a somewhat paradoxical relationship with your social energy. On one hand, you genuinely enjoy deep, meaningful interactions with close friends or like-minded individuals. On the other hand, large groups or superficial gatherings can leave you feeling drained or emotionally exhausted. This ebb and flow in your social energy is classic for INFJs, who require solitude to recharge and process the emotional input they receive during socialization. Creativity often flows naturally for you, but it's not creativity for the sake of novelty alone. It's a means to express your inner vision and values. Whether it's writing, painting, composing music, or even crafting a thoughtful presentation, your creative work tends to carry layers of meaning. You might find that you're drawn to symbolic or metaphorical forms of expression, seeking to convey truths that are difficult to state directly. There's also a tendency among INFJs to be perfectionistic, especially regarding projects or goals that reflect their core beliefs. This perfectionism isn't superficial. It's driven by a desire to honor your vision in the most authentic and impactful way possible. You may spend hours revising a piece of writing or refining a plan because you want it to resonate deeply, not just be good enough. This can sometimes lead to self-criticism, where you feel like you haven't lived up to your own high standards, even if others think you're doing great. Another significant sign is your way of processing emotions, not just your own, but those of others. While you experience feelings intensely, you often have a strong preference for keeping them private. Instead of outward displays of emotion, you might express vulnerability through subtle cues or symbolic actions, trusting only a select few to see your true emotional landscape. This reserved approach helps protect you from being misunderstood or feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Your intuition often acts like a compass, guiding you through life's decisions with an uncanny sense of timing or knowing. Sometimes, you just feel certain about a path or a person without being able to fully explain why. This gut feeling often turns out to be accurate, reflecting the depth of your subconscious processing. However, this can also create inner tension when your intuition clashes with external facts or opinions, leaving you to reconcile the unseen with the seen. INFJs often carry a quiet burden of responsibility toward others and the world. You may feel compelled to fix or improve situations that seem unfair or unjust, but you do this in a behind-the-scenes way rather than seeking the spotlight. This makes you natural counselors, advisors, or mentors, even if you don't hold formal roles in those areas. Your ability to empathize and provide thoughtful guidance is a gift, but it can sometimes lead to emotional fatigue if you don't set boundaries. A common experience for INFJs is the feeling of being misunderstood or even alienated because your worldview is unique and complex. You might sense that people don't always get your depth or intensity, which can be isolating. However, this also fuels your passion for finding or creating communities where authentic connection is possible. When you find those rare souls who resonate with your inner world, those relationships become treasured and often transformative. Your love of learning and personal growth is another hallmark. INFJs are lifelong seekers of knowledge, not just for intellectual stimulation, but to better understand themselves and others. You might find yourself drawn to psychology, philosophy, spirituality, or any discipline that offers insight into the human condition. This thirst for growth is often intertwined with a desire to live a meaningful life aligned with your values. One often unnoticed trait is your strong inclination towards symbolism and metaphor in everyday life. You don't just see things at face value. You instinctively look for hidden meanings or underlying themes. This can show up in how you interpret art, music, or even conversations. You might find yourself drawn to stories or experiences that resonate on a symbolic level because they speak to something profound within you. This hunger for deeper significance is a signature INFJ experience, where everything seems to hold a potential message or lesson if you look closely enough. Your memory, particularly for emotional experiences or meaningful moments, is typically very vivid. You don't just recall facts or events. You remember how you felt, the atmosphere, the subtleties of the interaction. This emotional memory helps you build rich mental maps of people and situations, which you then use to navigate social dynamics with sensitivity and insight. Sometimes, this can mean you carry past emotional experiences longer and more intensely than others might, leading you to reflect deeply on what they mean for your current life. INFJs also tend to have an unusual ability to anticipate outcomes and foresee how situations might unfold, especially in interpersonal contexts. This foresight isn't guesswork. It's the product of your introverted intuition synthesizing patterns, past experiences, and subtle cues all at once. Because of this, you might often feel like you're a step ahead of others in understanding what's really going on beneath the surface. While this is a powerful gift, it can sometimes feel isolating, as it's hard to find others who share this same level of insight. When it comes to expressing yourself, you likely prefer writing or other solitary creative outlets over spoken communication, especially when dealing with complex emotions or ideas. Putting your thoughts on paper allows you to carefully craft your message, layer it with nuance, and avoid being misunderstood. You might keep journals, write poetry, or even create private narratives that help you process your inner life. This reflective practice helps maintain your mental clarity and emotional balance. You may also have a subtle but persistent inner critic, a voice that questions if you're doing enough or living up to your own high ideals. This internal standard pushes you toward growth, but can sometimes become a source of doubt or perfectionism that's hard to silence. Unlike a harsh, external critic, your inner voice is more like a demanding mentor, never content with complacency, always urging you to refine and deepen your understanding. A quiet, somewhat paradoxical trait of INFJs is their combination of intense privacy and a strong desire to connect. You might guard your thoughts and feelings closely, sharing only with those you deeply trust, yet simultaneously crave authentic intimacy. This can create a push-pull dynamic in relationships where you yearn to be known but fear vulnerability or rejection. When you do open up, it's usually a transformative experience for both you and the other person, because it comes from a place of deep authenticity. You probably find yourself drawn to roles where you can quietly influence positive change rather than seek public recognition. Leadership, for an INFJ, often means guiding others with empathy and vision behind the scenes rather than taking center stage. Your impact is usually subtle but lasting, mentoring a colleague, inspiring a friend, or helping a community in small but meaningful ways. This behind-the-scenes influence is often overlooked, but it's where many INFJs thrive. A less talked about but important sign is your relationship with routine and spontaneity. While you often appreciate structure and planning, it's usually because these tools help you align your daily actions with your larger purpose. Routine provides a framework, but it's flexible. If something doesn't feel meaningful or authentic, you're willing to adjust or break the mold. Spontaneity for its own sake can feel unsettling or superficial, but spontaneous moments that enrich your vision or deepen relationships are welcomed and cherished. In moments of stress or overwhelm, INFJs often retreat deeply into their minds or emotions. This can lead to periods of intense introspection, where you sift through complex feelings or wrestle with existential questions. You may feel misunderstood or isolated during these times, but also use the experience as a catalyst for profound personal growth. Your resilience is quiet and internal. You rarely display your struggles outwardly, preferring to emerge stronger and more centered after these inner journeys. One profound sign you might be an INFJ is your deep fascination with understanding people's motivations, fears, and desires, not just in a casual way, but with a sincere and sometimes intense curiosity. You rarely accept surface explanations and instead instinctively probe for what's driving someone beneath their words or actions. This investigative tendency can feel like you're trying to decode others' behavior or emotions, often leading you to an almost psychic-like understanding of what's unspoken. This skill makes you a natural confidant, but it can also be emotionally taxing because you absorb others' struggles as if they were your own. Your thought process is typically holistic rather than linear. You don't just see isolated facts or events. You connect them into a web of meaning, spotting patterns and relationships that others might overlook. This Gestalt perspective means you often arrive at insights that feel like sudden epiphanies, which others might find hard to follow. Your mind is a fertile ground where ideas bloom in layers, each idea linked to several others, forming a tapestry of understanding. If you have most of the qualities mentioned in this video, these are compelling signs that you are an INFJ. Your personality is a rare blend of insight, empathy, and idealism that shapes not just how you see the world, but how you choose to engage with it. Being an INFJ can be tough sometimes. That's why we have put together resources that will help you navigate your relationships, career, and the INFJ life in general with clarity. Check out our INFJ Master Course and INFJ ebook. You can get them using the links in the description of this video.